Hello, everybody, and good morning, good Friday, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are, and whatever time you're watching this. I want to thank you all for showing up to Real Estate Talk TGIF number 191. That's 191 shows in 188 straight weeks. That's 188. And I have this guy that I saw through a mastermind a number of months ago that just totally impressed me. He is just a hardworking. We can use grind, we can use hustle, but Henry Eisenstein, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to get back to this and get started with our conversation just in a few minutes. Everybody, hold on and get ready for a great conversation.
Real estate agent, are you looking to acquire clients consistently so you can grow your business and your income to live a great lifestyle? This is Dave Finale and the RE Skill Builder podcast.
Yeah, welcome everybody to Real Estate Talk TGIF 191. It's 188 weeks in a row. I'm excited about that number. I love the number 88. It happens to be my birthday, so I want everybody to remember August 8th. Please send me all your money. There was a guy by the name of Soupy Sales from the 60s, had a TV show. He's a comedian. He told all the little kids to go take money out of their parents' purses and put it in an envelope and send it to him. He got in a ton of trouble. But that was Soupy Sales. I'm Dave Finale. This is Henry Eisenstein. Hey, man, thanks so much for coming. How are you doing today?
Doing amazing. How are you?
Awesome. I am pronouncing your name correctly. Am I not?
Eisenstein. You got it.
Awesome, man. So look, we start the broadcast, we have a conversation, but I ask everybody the same question as we start out. Most people do get it wrong, so don't worry if you don't get it right. What does TGIF stand for?
TGIF, I guess it is either thank God it's Friday or that's all I got.
Well, good. I'm glad you're honest. It's really cool. It means thank God. Well, look, Dave Finale, thank God it's finale. It's as simple as that.
Close.
Here we are. We're here to have a blast, and we start out with a little laughter. That's the best way. Henry, man, you know what? I've seen a lot of your stuff. I've watched a lot of your stuff. We met briefly on a mastermind a while ago. Tell me about you. Tell me about where you came from. Obviously, you're a couple of years younger than I am, and you might not have been around as long as I have. If you have, you look great. Anyway, tell me all about you, man.
So let's see. Years ago, I was the depressed, suicidal young kid, quiet kid in the back of the room. Everyone calls me a loudmouth now. I can't shut up. My fiance says I never stop talking, but I was the quiet kid in the back of the room. I was the person that you would have never bet on back in the day. I was the I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. Again, I was suicidal and depressed. I didn't know what I wanted to be growing up. I didn't even want to go to college, really. I was forced to go to college by my parents, and I ended up going to community college because I didn't want to waste their money. That's the way I looked at college. And I didn't even get my first job until I was nearly 18 years old, just because I was too busy playing video games. And I got really good at it, though, by the way. Long story short, though, is that I had a 9-to-5 job. I was 20 years old. I had worked at a buddy's business, right? A good friend of mine. And I worked my way up to making 40, 50 grand a year as a salary, no college degree. And I'm walking around with thousands of dollars in my pocket thinking that I'm rich, right? And like 30 grand in my name, no debt at 20 years old, again, no college degree. So I felt fantastic. I thought I was king of the world. I already surprised all my parents because, my parents, my family, my grandparents, everyone in my family, I was already the black sheep, not going to college. Listen, I'm Jewish. Jewish families are not too fond of not going to college. And so when I started making like 40, 50 grand a year, they were blown away. And then a friend of mine came to me and was like, listen, man, I got a friend of mine who's making 20 grand a month selling real estate. He's 21 years old. He's crushing it. I think we should get our real estate licenses. I was like, 20 grand a month. I was like, I'm making 3 grand a month and I think I'm killing it. I knew I had the same work ethic. I know I could make it happen. So funny enough, I actually quit the job that I had before I even got my real estate license, and which was a weird thing to happen because I ended up losing everything my first 12 months in real estate. My first 12 months of real estate, I always make the same joke. I started with 30 grand in cash and no debt, and I ended up with 30 grand in debt and no cash. Not exactly what I expected. But listen, within a year and a half of kind of falling on my face, I ended up quitting the business. Actually, I quit the business. I was so fed up with being screwed over and not, just not making it. Like I thought this was going to be my big break. So I started 4 or 5 different businesses at 22, 23 years old. And then I went to a Tony Robbins event that changed everything for me. And again, January. Let's think about how crazy this is. 2018, January 2018. So what is that? 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Anyways, I'm sitting at a Panera. I'm having a coaching call with my Tony Robbins coach at the time, and again, I'm like 23 years old. I got a 550 credit score. I'm $70,000 in credit card debt, and I got maybe $2,000 in my name. And I just have this vision, this dream of what I could become. And my coach at the time, thank God he said it to me. He's like, listen, kid, who do you know at your age who had 4 or 5 different businesses? And I was in everything, like the drop shipping, the e-commerce, the this, I was just trying to be rich, right? I wasn't paying attention to the business. And he's like, who do you think, right? Or who do you know that you've been studying, right? That became wildly successful, starting all these different businesses at your age. I was like, not a single person I've ever studied. He's like, exactly. What they do is they go all in on one thing for a decade. And he's like, that's exactly what you got to do. And he's like, then you can, as you build up, you can do other things. And in that very moment, I knew it was real estate. I just had to go do it for me. I was on other teams. I had bad experiences previously. My first year, I made 140 grand. The next year, I made 450. The following year, I made 700. And now it's been a life-changing experience. But it all happened with that laser focus, And now I'm on an amazing podcast with the famous Dave.
Thank you so much for that, sir. So, all right. So the first year you did what?
I did 2 sales in my 12 months.
2 sales. Okay. And then after you made the switch and finally committed with the laser focus, what did you do that first year?
First year I did 38 sales.
And how much money? What was your income?
About 140 grand.
Yeah, just. I mean, you just said it, so that's why I ask it, right?
No,
okay. So talk to me about how you did that, right? Look, just so I'm clear in my question is that
sure.
There's so many agents out there that are doing the 5 deals, the 10 deals, the 15 deals. I mean, in the state of New Jersey, as you know, Henry, we just had we are able to advertise what our circle of excellence is, our awards, right? And I think it's just, people get pissed at me all the time because I say I think the circle of excellence is a fucking joke. I think for gold and platinum, it's perfect, but for the other stuff, it's not. And we're one of only 2 states in the country that have awards like that.
I know. But I think it's a joke too. I agree.
So I mean, yeah, okay. I look at the award to compare it with the reward, right? Yeah. So the reason I asked that question is a lot of people would love to be doing that number. So I want you to tell them how you did that your first year. That's what the reason for the question.
Sure. I mean, listen, I was obsessed with this little device, the phones. I was prospecting. I was a big cold caller. I still like cold calling. I was a big expired guy. I haven't done that in a long time, but that entire first 2 years of my career, I did nothing but expireds. I was cranking calls. I was doing circle prospecting. Listen, I was 23. Like my friends weren't buying houses.
Right.
So I had to build a whole new network.
Right. So you're 23 and there's a lot of people that get into the business that, they're in their 30s and their 40s or whatever, and they've got a real sphere of influence that actually has the wherewithal to buy. When you get out of college or you get out of high school or whatever it is, you don't have that sphere, so you need to create the business any way, shape, or form you can. It's almost like, Henry, if I said to you, look, I'm going to take you out of New Jersey and I'm going to put you in Boise, Idaho.
Yeah.
How are you going to make business? How are you going to make money? Just as you just said, right?
It's a gift and a curse when you come into this game with a network, because you forget that lead generation is the lifeblood of your business. So if you just rely on your network, right? You forget about actually generating leads. You just keep, listen, building relationships is literally the key to building an incredibly, basically a passive income like you wouldn't imagine in this business. However, the very beginning, you can't just rely on that.
Right.
Like it's the amount of leads you generate on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly basis is the lifeblood of your business, right? And so many people forget about that when you first start. Like, you're a business owner. Lead gen is part of the business.
Exactly. It's funny, having conversations with, I have been lucky to work with a lot of different people over my career. One of them, who I consider a friend, John Cheplack, who recently said something about, talk to people that have done really well and how have they build their business over time. And the question that he wants to ask them, and I want to ask them, is what worked for you when you first started really doing well? And they tell you what that answer is.
Yeah.
And the next question is, do you still do that? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. And the next question is, why the hell not?
Agreed.
You're going off the things in different avenues of investing and coaching and stuff that you're doing and building an organization through EXP. And I get that. So you're doing different things, but you know that those things work. All right. So we go through the first couple of years of your business and you've done well. You're 23, 24, and that's a nice income for someone that age. Your next year, you did a lot more. How did you scale that business from that 6 figures to another 6 figures?
So, the trap in this business is that you get stuck at somewhere in the, call it 100 to 200 grand range, typically, right? 80 to 100 or 80 to 200 grand range, doing,
Right.
call it what, the 15 to 30 deal range, and depending on your price point. And that happens because people don't want to delegate. They don't want to hire. They don't want to build leverage in their life, and they want to do it all themselves. They don't want to take on the responsibility, right, of hiring somebody and having possible payroll every other week, right?
Right.
That, they're fearful of it. And I feel like, listen, you could do one of two things. I mean, like, unless you're in the super luxury market where you can do 20 sales and make $1 million a year, and do it all on your own, which even still, I don't understand why you wouldn't just hire. But if you want to scale and the most average price points around the country, you need to hire, an administrative assistant once you hit the 100, 200 grand range, right? Somewhere around the 10 to 15 grand net income a month. If you want to go bigger, and make more, you need to hire. Have to.
So a lot of people say, well, you know what? I don't want to be an employer. I mean, how else can I scale my business? I don't know. I mean, hire a TC, a company, a transaction coordination company. That would be one of the ways.
Partner with an agent who has it.
Excuse me?
Partner with an agent that has it. Don't make the excuse that you don't want to hire somebody. I mean, now people can partner with my organization. I know there's plenty of other teams with EXP or in other companies that, like, you can partner with a team that will handle your back end, right? And then you don't even have to hire anybody. And you're going to pay a split, but at least this way, you don't have to do 100% of everything.
Right. And that's exactly what I'm doing here with, as I start to grow a team, et cetera, is, you know what? I don't want to do that stuff. Right. I don't want to. I mean, I can do it. I mean, I own my own brokerage. I set it up. I mean, I could do it, but that's a really important thing. But so we hire an assistant. So tell me, what did your assistant do for you? What were the jobs that they did for you?
Sure. And also I want to explain that in one thing too, right? So also know that, like, because I coach a lot of people, I know you do too, right? And the common thing that I hear from people about hiring is they say, like, well, I know, I could do it. I know you can do it. It's not a question of your ability to do it. It's the question of the dollar per hour. Is it worth it for you to do it? Right? Because it's like, how much do you actually value your time? Right? Because some of these tasks, writing up offers, entering listings, right? Managing the transaction as a transaction coordinator, right? Going and putting up lock boxes and signs on your listing, right? What is the dollar per hour of that activity? It's somewhere between $15 and $20 an hour. Right. And when, like, okay, so that's one bucket. And then you have another bucket, which is lead generation, networking, building relationships, going on listing presentations, all that kind of thing. What's the dollar per hour of that? What would you pay somebody to do that for you if you could never do that again? I'm talking it's $500 to $1,000 an hour on average. Right. So
Right.
those are two different buckets. Why are you so attached to the $10 or $20 an hour bucket, but you always give up the 500 to 1,000 hour bucket the second you get busy, right?
Yeah, I want to take I want to take a different spin on this a little bit too, and talk about concept, right?
Sure.
Concept and putting it into context. So, Henry, you just said you want to go from that stuck point of 80 to 200, right? From that point, and that's a good agent, right? Admittedly, that's a decent agent,
Yep.
and they want to go further than that. The agent that's actually going to get there is a little different. The agent that's not going to get there is asking you about the cost.
Yep.
The agent that's going to get there, such as yourself, is going to say, what is the return on that investment? How
Right.
can I do, how much more business can I do because I'm making the investment, right?
Right.
So that's the difference between that person that's always going to be there. It's the mindset of cost as to investment,
Yep.
right?
I agree.
And,
Listen,
and
it should double or triple your business. Your very first hire should double or triple your business. And by the way, if they don't do that in the first 90 days to 6 months, you have the wrong person.
so, I mean, I got one of the things that I learned from all the access that you and I have are these things. And one of the things that the best way to look at this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you need to make a list of everything you do.
Yep.
I mean, when I work with agents, one of the things I tell them, if they talk about time, I talk about the 168-hour exercise. That's 168 hours in a week. How do you split it up,
Yep.
right? And then the next thing I talk about is, okay, I want you to write down for at least a week or 2 weeks everything you do, every piece of time that you use. What are you doing? The next step is to take anything that you hate to do and the low per hour things, just as you've said, write them down. That is the job description for your assistant, right? So you had a buddy of mine, Matt DeFady, who's on right now. He wants to know if we'd recommend a virtual TC or an in-house TC. What are your thoughts on that?
You start virtual. Start virtual. If you're, again, if you don't want to come out of pocket, and if you want to test the waters, like I hired in-house immediately, right? And by the way, I also believe that hiring in-house at you can call it like 20 to 30 hours a week. It doesn't have to be full time. Like you don't have to hire immediately at 40 hours a week, but somebody in-house doing 20 hours, somewhere between 10 and 3 or 10 and 2, whatever hours, makes sense. That's a good position to start in, right? Or you can start virtual or start, part-time. You don't have to just jump into that 40 hours.
No, you don't. And the other thing that you can do is, if people don't know this, there are companies out there that just do transaction coordination.
Exactly.
And it's usually $300 to $500 a file.
Exactly. And listen, most of the time when they're debating this, you're doing a deal or so a month, right? You're doing a deal or two maybe a month. And your check is $10,000, $8,000, $15,000, and you're debating whether you should hire somebody so that you can go from 1 check to 3 a month. Where, what's the debate?
So I have a good friend of mine in the St. Louis area who was doing 100 transactions, and she had a couple of buyer agents, a couple of assistants, and she got to the point where this is crazy because people weren't showing up. They were getting their work done, but they couldn't get them on the phone. She just said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do the best I can. She fired everybody, and she just employed a transaction coordination company. So when she gets the deal, she gives it to them.
Yep.
Guess what? She still did 100 deals.
By the way, I'm the same reality. I fired my entire team.
Right.
And now I dwindled it down to basically 2 people, and I have a transaction management team that we've organized a very similar structure. Right. And, and 1 showing assistant. And I'm still doing the same production that I had with 4 times the team.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? It's just, you're doing more with less, but it's a matter of the organization. Look, I'm the first to tell you that I suck at organization, and I'm building that. And the second thing, you talked about, lead generation through cold calling like crazy, right? Being obsessed with it. And now we talk about growth and scaling, with an assistant, a TC, whatever we want to talk about. The other thing for me, talk to me about your calendar. Talk to me about that and what that means to you and how important that is to you. For me, sticking to that is like, I got to. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you want to make, call it if you want to be a 7-figure real estate agent, you got to live and die by a calendar. If it's not in my calendar, it doesn't happen. everything is in my calendar, right? Every call I have to make, every appointment, obviously, dinner plans with my fiance, breaks in the middle of my day to walk my dog, like reminders for that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, I have it where I have a task that I have to get done, aka walk my dog, right? Hypothetically, if my fiance takes it, I already immediately know that I have a second option for that, which is make my phone calls. I have a list that I could just dive right into. So I always have a second backup just in case, which typically is just diving into phone calls and follow-ups I have to make, right? But
Yeah.
live and die by your calendar.
Right. So let me ask you a question. If you're prospecting, say you're going to do 2 hours of prospecting a day, do you allow interruptions in that 2 hours?
Listen, I'd like to say absolutely not. However, I've been working out of my house recently with a new puppy, so it hasn't exactly been perfect. But my rule of thumb is I just don't answer calls, right? That's my rule of thumb. I go to the bathroom beforehand, I get my water ready, my coffee's done. I don't have any that's my 2 hour block, right? So 99% yes, it is not. It is a no distraction time, and I'm just prospecting.
So I mean, that's one of the difficulties I always had with agents, where I tell them, you don't answer other calls.
Exactly.
You don't. And the other thing is, you don't do research. You don't have to know anything about the house you're calling on. Your objective is to build rapport and to get an appointment.
Agreed.
Report first, appointment second. When you build rapport, you can ask for the appointment.
Yep.
But look, you know what? We're working with a lot of different types of people, and they're going to allow interruptions. So one of the things that I always did, and I still do it today on a daily basis, is I set up what I call a flex block. There's a block of time in my schedule where I need to make up what I didn't get done in that other block. Right.
Okay.
And I think that supersedes everything, and it gives everybody, I think it takes the anxiety away from not being able to answer that call, and you see it. I mean, honestly, just as you and I are standing here, I've gotten 2 calls from 2 clients, and I've actually written it on my hand to make sure I remember to call them back when we finish today. Right. Not everybody remembers. I've only been doing this for 188 weeks, but nobody seems to want to remember that I'm busy between 11 and 12 on Fridays. Who knows? But anyway, so let's talk about going from you decided to scale with assistance, et cetera, and then you went for more. Tell me how you got there to that next level.
Yeah, so I only think that there's only so many ways for someone to go to, because you kind of get to the plateau now of you hired your first assistant and now you want to go big, right? If you want to go big, there's only so many ways to do so, right? Number one, which is probably the most common, is people hire agents, right? They recruit agents to their team and they make a piece over a bunch of people, right? And that's, again, you're sort of trying to leverage your income, right? And you don't want, because you want to eventually step out of production, right?
Yep.
By the way, that was my first choice. I went down that path, right? I tried it. It ended up not being what I wanted, right? Because I believe that those people become managers, right? And by the way, if you want to become a successful manager, there's a lot of very successful managers that I know, right? And eventually you hire the management position, right? And then you can step back, right?
And I want to tell everybody, if you're in the state of New Jersey, there's a lot of those positions available.
Absolutely, right? And look, EXP with recruitment, right? It's also it kind of it's a version of the team without the management, right? So there's a piece to that, right? So number one is you could scale out through agents. Number two, and more of what I've decided to do, is a scaling through showing assistance and through my network, right? So let me explain what that means for me, right? So instead of hiring dozens of agents, I hire 1 to 2 showing assistants that just manage Henry's business, right? They work for Henry. They're on my payroll, right? So I don't get a piece of that, but I do get 80+% of every transaction, right? 80-90+% of every transaction that closes. Even though I pay them a salary, they get a small bonus on every deal, right? So I keep a majority of my deals, and because here's the thing, I value having a lifestyle, right? That's what my dream has always been, is just having an awesome lifestyle where I can do what I want whenever I want, right? So I found to keep that lifestyle going, I don't need to have dozens of agents that I need to manage and hope and pray that they close deals. I need to have 2 specific people who are on my payroll who I know are going to just get things done and continue to do my business, right? My average commission check is $12,000 to $15,000. I only have to do 6 deals a month to make an incredibly great income when it comes to that, because I also have so many other things going on. This is an incredibly profitable real estate business, right? Where I can make $800,000 to $1.2 million a year, not really killing myself, right? And I have 2 employees in that business, right? So it's
So,
like, so you
go
have
ahead.
those two scalabilities, right? So you either can scale through agents or scale through my network, which I've chosen to do with 1 or 2 employees who manage my own business, right?
So I want everybody to really, if you're watching this not live, please rewind that and just listen to what Henry just said, right? Because I want to put that in context. Brokerages, being a former broker owner of a brokerage, profitability, not so much. The teams, a lot of teams out there, profitability, again, not so much because
I've
of
been
the
there. I've been there.
right, right. And you didn't say that a minute ago. I'm saying that now. You're saying that again. So you have to understand that. Yes, I hear so many people, and I've heard this, Henry, for 10 years. Oh, I'm going to start a team. Okay, how many deals are you doing a month? I do 1, maybe 2. Sorry, you're not a team person yet, right? You need to be. What was the old saying? The old word, rainmaker, right? They're actually
Hire support. Hire support.
right.
That's what you need to hire. You don't need to hire agents for, to build, quote unquote, this massive team, because the margins you have in a team, imagine you're paying somebody 50 to 75+% of a transaction, right? Obviously the deals or whatever, on average, call it 50 to 75% to pay another agent on their deals, right? Right. Now, of that 50 to 25% margin, you now have to pay all of your expenses and then have a profitable margin that you're going to live off of. Right?
Yes.
You start really running the numbers, you got to put up some crazy numbers in order to just be profitable.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And and we're not harping on the assistant thing, but I just want to use 2 examples. I know agents who are now doing in the multiple 7-figure business. And I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars worth of business. The
Amazing.
first hire they made when they first got into business, one of them was an assistant. They hadn't done any business at all, but they knew there was shit they did not want to do. They didn't want to do forms. They didn't want to do anything. They got into business as a serious situation. They learned a little bit about it before. They knew a little bit about it before it started. I know somebody else that their first hire was a driver, right? So they didn't have to drive themselves around, where they could do their business by driving to appointments, whatever, someone drove them around, right? Sure. Kind of interesting. It's an extreme, I think, maybe a little, but it worked well. Okay. So you have a showing assistant, another assistant, and you're able to do that. Talk to me about how you've leveraged everything to go into investing, et cetera. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, listen, my dream has always been owning the most real estate possible, right? Like, I envision myself, Grant Cardone's always been a mentor of mine from a screen and from up close up. I've been fortunate to have him, in several circumstances where I've been able to talk to him one-on-one. And look, I mean, like, I think the dream is, the generational wealth, right? That's my vision for my family, right? And
what is generational wealth? Explain that.
Something like, listen, when you can pass down hundreds of millions or billions of dollars of real estate that will supersede your lifetime, right? Everybody would love a business that supersedes their lifetime, right? An income that'll supersede your lifetime, right? You know what a lot of people do? They buy life insurance because that's the only thing that will supersede their lifetime, right? However, for me, I want to pass down, incredible assets that my kids' will be able to still be able to make money on for the rest of their life, right? That'll pay for everybody's lifestyle, everybody's college, and going forward. Listen, like, I think it's funny how I feel like a lot of people, and tell me if I'm wrong, they get in this real estate world as an agent with the hopes and dreams of possibly owning some investment property, right? That's typically what I hear a lot. They want to get into the investment side of things, so they end up getting their license, right?
Right.
And I still find it funny that most real estate agents can't even qualify for a mortgage, right? Because they write off everything, right? And they spend all this time helping other people get rich, buying property, even though they'll never own it themselves, right? And listen, that was me, by the way, for a long time. I was making, a few $100,000 a year, having a big team, but couldn't qualify for a mortgage because the margins weren't there, number one, and number two, I was terrible with my money, right? I had to make a massive shift, right? I had to learn different skill sets, different, habits, right? Where now it's like, I do the same business and profit 80% instead of doing the same business and profiting 10%, right? I mean, it's different, right? And I watched my grandparents build an incredible life for themselves, right? I mean, it kind of skipped, entrepreneurship skipped a generation. My grandparents built an incredible empire. My parents, school teacher and back office, manager, and, God bless their hearts. They gave me all the love in the world, and they just weren't entrepreneurs, right? And I watched my grandparents. I was like, I want what they have. Where they can go on every trip imaginable. They could, they don't ever look at a price tag, right? Anything they want, they got it. So in order to go to that next point, right? By the way, I think there's also, I coach this, right? Where like there are levels to investments. I started out as the agent helping investors make millions, right? Where I made my percentage, I made hundreds of thousands, which was nice. As a 23, 24, 25-year-old coming up in the business, it was a fantastic, thing for me to learn. And I got to learn through their failures and their mistakes and their experiences, right? Where I was able to find deals, learn how they analyze deals, know how to walk a deal, know how to like walk the talk, right? Like I got to learn all of this through other people's experiences and still make money doing it. It was like the best internship in the freaking world, right?
Right.
So that means when I started to find deals off market, once I started to have enough money for myself, I knew deals were deals not only the second they hit the market, but the second I even just heard the terms of the deal, I could tell if it was a deal or not, right? So it's just like learning algebra for the first time or learning a science for the first time. Like it takes time to understand it, but once you get it, it's just it's a magic. It's a skill set, right? It's like a doctor and a surgeon, right? It's like a magic when they can just go in and just do all these things, and you're like, how are you doing this, right? So, again, I started out doing my own deals, right? I think phase 2 is once phase 1 is doing it for other people as an agent. Phase 2 is starting off with your first deal, buying your first rental, buying your first flip, right? Using your own money, right? That's phase 2, using your own money. Maybe you use hard money for the rest of the mortgage, right? But then phase 3, which is what I'm in now, is raising capital at a high level and leveraging other people's money, OPM, right? Other people's money and my skill set, now being able to buy $5 million deals using other people's money, leveraging their assets, their experiences, so that I can get into a bigger world now, right?
So I have to ask you a trivia question.
Sure.
You used the phrase OPM. Do you know where that started?
I'm curious to know where that started. I mean, I have my thoughts. But
There's anybody that's been around a little bit, maybe not as long as I have. They remember this guy by the name of Carlton Sheets.
Carlton Sheets, that's right.
Carlton Sheets sold cassette tapes back in the 80s and 90s, teaching people how to invest in real estate using other people's money.
100%.
And then after that, Kiyosaki came out with his books and all this stuff, and everything went crazy. But I hear that, and I always got to think back that I actually bought those tapes. Did not act on them, but it was something else. But anyway, okay, so we talked about investments. So one of the things I see with investments, and I talk to agents all the time, and I'm a mentor. I have a lot of mentees, and a lot of them, honestly, there's a lot of people that come in that I interview to be my mentee because I'm not taking just anyone. If they a lot of them tell me that they want to be an investor, okay? And I start having a conversation with them about their investing, and they start using all these different terms. So if there was one term that was important to you when you're going to make an investment, is the term, I'm going to give you 2 choices, and I want you to tell me why. Cap rate or yield? What's more important to you?
So, and you're referencing yield to cash to return, right?
I am.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly.
Yeah, you know it.
Yeah. So yield is most important. I mean, listen, cash on cash returns is all I pay attention to, right? I mean, that's it, right? Cap rates are a myth.
Thank you. Yeah, it's you're absolutely right. I mean, people like to look at investment as what you're putting down and how much you're going to get back on that in a time slot. Is that a month? Is that a year? Whatever, that's going to tell you whether you're going to be making money or not. And I'll tell you what. I think I learned from one of the best. It was my dad, and he's the man who never ran a number, right? Had a huge portfolio through his lifetime, and his deal was if it paid for itself, it was worth buying.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot too. And then, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, like, listen, there might come a time where if property pays for itself, I might just take a 0 return, right? However, it's still not zero based on appreciation, depreciation, principal pay down and other things. But yeah, I mean, listen, I think that people, it's interesting how you can look at a deal in so many different facets, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't look at the cash on cash returns, you can lose money so fast in real estate.
Yeah.
Right. And, but when you only focus on cash returns above everything else, that is the only metric that truly matters over anything truly in my business. Right. And listen,
100%.
I also say this a lot recently too, where I'm talking to a lot of friends who also flip 20, 30, 50, 80, 100 homes a year. And when I talk to them and listen, they make millions, right? However, I'm how much real estate do you own as rentals? And they're none. I'm why would you possibly, it just doesn't, it's unfathomable to me, right? The depreciation alone, I was listen, if you bought, 20 to 25% of the properties that you buy, right? You spend, call it the money that you make, take 20 to 25% and instead of decided to buy rentals every year. Do you know that you probably could whack out your entire income in just on your depreciation? Right? I mean, why would you, your income would basically go up 4 times because you don't have to pay the tax on it legally,
It is pretty amazing on how these are simple investments too. These are not huge investments, right?
Agreed.
We're talking about buying real estate, a 2-family, a 3-family, a 4-family, maybe a small mixed use property, right? And they're all out there. Just make sure one's performing. So I want to switch gears a little bit here, Henry, if it's okay. I want to go back to the start of your business, right? You in our conversation earlier this week, you felt that your key to getting started in this business was mastering the phones, right? That's what you had said to me. I mean, you said it earlier, you're a cold caller, you're obsessed with the phone, et cetera. And we talked about the art of communication. Talk to me a little bit about when you started on the phones. What's the most important thing in your art of communication?
Yeah, so it's funny, as you were bringing up the phones, I was oh, the art of communication, that's all that matters in this business, right? So so when it comes to the art of communication, and listen, it's not just over the phones. It's in everything that you do. It is what will help you master networking and building relationships, right? But just talking about being on the phone, listen, you're called the first impression, right? The first impression, you got your first 10 to 30 seconds, right? When you're speaking to somebody, right? Whether on the phone or face-to-face, right? Those opening lines, your tonality, your rate of speech, right? Your body language. And by the way, body language still matters when you're on the phones because people can hear that and feel that, right? So it's your opening lines, your opening verbiage, right? And your body language, your tonality, your rate of speech, all that stuff, right? That is so powerful because that will set up the rest of the phone call. Right. Your energy that you bring there is going to set up the rest of the phone call. Then you get into the meat of it, which is really just rapport building and motivational seeking, right? You're just trying to figure out their motivations, right? You're building rapport and building that relationship, whether over the phone or face to face. And you're also trying to ask powerful questions that in evoke emotion, evoke motivation, what their dreams, goals, aspirations are, what they're looking to do, how you can support them at the highest levels, right? And that, by the way, that is the same principles, whether you're calling an expired or meeting with a multi-million-dollar developer. It's the same thing, right? Yes. And then you have the close, right? You have the close, which so many people forget about, which is just sort of imagine being on a first date and then you kind of just say, so instead of kissing her, you got to just bye. It's just you know what I mean? That's she's ready, you're out with a significant other, you had a wonderful date or whatever, and she's going in for the kiss, and then you just said goodbye, right? They want you to close them, right? Anybody wants to be listen, it's weird when you don't ask for the close. It's weird when you don't ask for the next appointment. It's weird when you don't actually ask for the business, right? You get through the whole process and then you're just so what'd you think? What is that? So it's just listen, at the very end, you got to ask for the business, right? So typically or naturally, right? Just like a Tom Ferry script, you can look it up. He's got free scripts everywhere, right? I mean, you don't overcomplicate how easy it can be to find a freaking script that works, right? Tom Ferry free script book. Just type it into Google. You'll find one, right? It's what I used for years. But again, naturally, at this point, all we have to do is simply set an appointment. So what works better for you, afternoons or evenings? Just say that about 1,700 times in a year, and you'll probably get more business than you understand, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Don't
Yep.
overcomplicate. And the same thing when you're face to face with anybody. Close for whatever you're looking to do. Ask for the business. Don't be afraid to just ask.
Right. Because it takes more than, Henry, it takes more than just, one close to get anywhere you want to go. I mean, you've got to, I call every close a conversion, right? You got to convert, you have to convert to keep the conversation going. That's called building rapport. You have to convert for the possibility to keep talking. You have to convert for the appointment, etc. And people say, well, when do I ask for the appointment? Every time they ask you a question. Every time they ask you a question.
Grant Cardone says,
go ahead.
Have you heard enough to make a decision? Have you heard enough to make a decision? He says, say that exactly just like you said. Anytime they ask you a question, matter of fact, you have a beeper on your freaking phone that vibrates, right? Every 5 to 15 minutes, whatever you want. When you're at a listing presentation, I can't even explain to you how many times earlier in my career, I'd be at somebody's house for an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Jesus.
Right? And I'm talking myself out of the appointment when I literally now can walk in and be done in 15 minutes or less. Because I walk in, I do my thing, and then I just at the beginning, right when we're about to sit down, I'm just like, so have you heard enough to make a decision? Yes, sign. Okay, great. I'm getting out of there. Like, that's it.
So let me ask this question. So you brought it up. So 15 minutes. What are you doing in that 15 minutes? People are saying, if they're listening to this, they're saying, what the hell are you talking about? I got to go through my marketing presentation. I got to do this. I got to tell them that. I got to tell them this. What's 15 minutes? How do you do that, Henry?
Listen, let me also talk up front. A lot of my business is by referral, right? Okay. Don't get me wrong. Maybe it's 20 or 30 minutes when it's not a referral, right? But listen, you'll walk through the house and then get to the kitchen table as fast as you possibly can, right? And you can ask things immediately. So it's just like, in a perfect world, when we're looking to get your home sold by, do you think I am qualified enough in order to get that, or do you think I'm qualified in order to achieve that job? Yes. Right. Simple questions. But by the way, listen, if they invited you into their house, they think you're qualified. Just understand that. They've invited an absolute stranger into their home. They assume you're qualified. You don't have to pitch all this kind of stuff. No one cares about your marketing plan unless they ask specifically for it, right? By the way, I pre-qualify on the phone sometimes. I used to do it all the time. I mean, again, now it's a lot of referral business where you can ask them on the phone, right? What are you specifically looking for in the agent you look to hire to sell your home? Well, someone who's got a great marketing plan. Great. I'm going to talk on that for 3 minutes, right? In my marketing, specifically, what would be something you're looking for in a marketing plan that would, that the next listing agent you look to hire would be offering? Well, I'm looking for somebody to take great video. Okay, great. Just talk about video for 3 minutes. Show them some one instance that you recorded video, right? And know that you're just going to do that on this listing to get the listing. Have you heard enough to make a decision? Yeah, absolutely. When would be a great time for me to take photos? This weekend or early next week? That's it. Don't stop over pitching. You're talking yourself out of it. You talk too much. You're word vomiting.
Exactly. It's it's great the way you do it, because you know what? They're inviting you into your home. And here's the one thing I want to bring out too. You said you pre-qualify them on the phone. The great part about pre-qualification is a lot of people don't understand that they need to be pre-qualifying. Either they do it in the same call where they get the appointment, right after they get the appointment, or they do it in between the appointment, the calling and the appointment.
That's typically what I do. When I call to confirm.
Right. Okay. So when you call to do that, you're asking questions. Are you going to be ready to list your home? Should everything look okay to you? And you talk other questions about their home. You ask them about price. You just go forward with it, and you'll find out everything that they're going to object to. And then when you get on that appointment, as you said, you're just going to go through everything you got. Am I qualified enough? It's perfect, right?
Listen, when you do your pre-qualification call, you ask them a couple powerful questions, right? Like, in a perfect world, when would you like to have the house on the market? As soon as possible. I don't know, 30 days, but whatever they say to you, right? And you're going to say things like that. You're going to ask them, like, what would you look for most in the agent you look to hire to list your home? You're going to get all these details. And then at the very end, just say, okay, great. Would you mind having a copy of your key handy ready for me when I get there? Right? When I walk into appointments, they got a copy of the key on the kitchen table. I'm like, I don't got to ask anything.
It's how you frame everything that you do, and how you how you posture it. Excuse me, I didn't say that right. But that's it. I mean, so as you've moved along in your business, Henry, You've done nicely. And so what is the next step for you that you have not achieved as of yet, and how will you get there?
Just buying a lot more real estate, my man, and building up a massive brand online. And buying the real estate. I'm going to keep raising money, looking for fantastic deals. I'm partnering with a bunch of wholesalers, building a lot of relationships all over the country in areas that I look to buy. And listen, it's all about relationships, and no matter what you want, right? So build a relationship into the business, the future business that you want. I guarantee if you find one powerful person, your business will literally jump light years. If you find the right person, you'll know. Listen, if your business isn't jumping light years, you have the wrong person. I'm just being honest, right? If you're in a partnership. All right, so that's one side of it. And then building a massive personal brand. I mean, I do a lot of video content. Probably by the end of this year, I'll have a full-time team. I mean, I have a couple people, but like now I want to go like massive with it. Do a lot of Facebook ads, build out my coaching program. Really have a big impact on this world and help people.
That's amazing, man. I really I'm so intrigued by how you're doing it and what you're doing and where you're going, because it's I fully believe that if you look at this business, as your job, start out as a job, turns into a career, turns into a lifestyle, and turns into something you just do because that's what you do. It's not a job. If you do that, you can really do well. I mean, I worked with agent upon agent upon agent that struggles to do that 5 to 10 deals a year. There's a struggle in it. And I've realized over the past 4 years, and every day there's an example, and I'm talking to one right now, where all it takes is just focus.
Listen, a couple of years of sacrifice. If you really want a big life, what are you willing to give up for it? What are you willing to give up for it? I was willing to give up 2, 3, 4. I'm still willing to give it up now. I'm still doing it now. Like, right. Listen, and obviously I recognize how fortunate I am to have gotten into this business at a young age and have the people around me. I understand that, but that's not an excuse I would be making at any age, period. Right. So it's like, recognize, like, listen, my mom says all the time, and I call her out on it. She thinks she's finished. At 60 years old. She thinks she's finished. Right. Like, like it's just like, it's over. Life's over. I mean, like, what kind of talk is that? Right. She's like, again, my grandparents are 94 years old, still around, all 4 of them. Right. So like, I'm like, you got a lot of life to live, honey. Like, what are you really waiting for here? You're like, no one's going to do it for you. Life's right in front of you. I'm willing to sacrifice a few short years of my life, right? I sacrificed 2 or 3 years to build the lifestyle I have today. I'm not satisfied. I'm willing to dive back into it. Sacrifice another 2 to 5 years of my life so I can build a freedom that my future, my kids, and so on, the generations to come will never have to make a sacrifice ever again, right? I'm willing to make that. Right. Not a lot of people are.
Right. And I will tell you, just when you use your mom as an example, I'm a couple years older than her. I'm 64 years old. And 4.5 years ago, I wanted to go into a different life, and that was coaching or whatever, because I didn't like the lifestyle I was living. I had some issues I had to take care of, and I did that. And I will tell you that a couple of months ago, I decided to do something different. I'm starting all over with going into production again, doing all the things that I didn't do before, and to be really great at it. That's why I'm growing this thing called the Modern Agent Team. So I'm 64 and I'm starting all over again.
Basically. Life is about reinvention, constant and forever reinvention. Listen, I understand. Listen, my whole team, my entire team shifted this past year, right? Between people leaving me and people laying people off and all that thing, that was unexpected. A lot of this kind of stuff. Life throws curveballs.
Yep, sure does.
Right. And it's about, I had to reinvent myself again. And not like, listen, I didn't want to. It's not like we all want to go back into the grind and work 100 hours a week. Listen, I work 20 hours a week now again. There was a period of time where I had to work 70, 80, 100 hours for a few weeks to get things back on track. Right? It's constant and forever reinvention of ourselves.
Yeah, it's funny. I keep going back to this same expression that my dad and I use, because my dad, real estate investor, also a dentist. People don't understand the difference, the relationship, but yeah, he invested his money, and I worked all of his real estate. I maintained it, managed it, etc. And we always said that when something happened, when we had to replace somebody or we had extra work to do, we said, our phrase was really simple. We've done it before, we'll do it again.
Exactly.
And with the certain work ethic and mindset, you're going to be able to do it. But, a mindset can be shifted. 100%. It can be shifted. It's called mind shift. And it's easy to do It's just all about what you really want and knowing why you want it.
Listen, there's been someone before you, before everybody, right? At your age, with your quote unquote setbacks and your worse setbacks, worse challenges, older than you, who's overcame all these challenges and setbacks that you think are so crazy and then some, and build an unbelievable life for themselves, right? I mean, think about it. Like, there's Sam Walton started Walmart at 44, right? Colonel Sanders started Kentucky Fried Chicken at 68, right? I mean, like, had nothing. If you know his story, he had nothing at 65, 66, 67, had nothing. And by the time he was 88, he was a multi-billionaire. I mean, who are we to say and put this limit on our capacity? Who are we to do that?
I love you, man.
Right? Like, listen, if I can think, I was the depressed, suicidal young kid for 10 years of my life because guess what? I freaking believed it. It was my story. I told myself over and over again, I can't be anything because like, if I don't go to college, which I wish I didn't want to do, right? Because I thought I'd get bullied more, right? I'm not going to be successful because that was ingrained in my head by my parents and my grandparents. And it was a story I told myself over and over again. I just decided to tell myself a different story, right? Because I'm the author of mine and you're the author of yours, right? Rewrite it.
That's right.
Rewrite it.
That's right. That's right. It's just a matter of determination, being principled, and committing to what you're doing. Because I mean,
right.
I don't give a shit what your goal is, because if you don't commit to it, it's still garbage, right?
But it's also, listen, your goal is your goal. Add a zero to it. If it scares the shit out of you, like, good. If it doesn't scare the shit out of you, what kind of goal is that?
Yeah, and my goals today scared the shit out of me, and I'm just happy I've got them.
I love that. Amazing.
Hey, man, I want to thank you so much for coming on today and doing everything that you're doing. You inspire me, and I'm a little bit older than you, so that's pretty cool. That's a big thing for me to say. And I am so lucky to have the opportunity to have great people like you on this broadcast and others. And I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Always, thank you.
And if everybody wants, tell people how they can contact you and your coaching and everything else. Tell them how they can contact you.
Just reach out. Listen, you got my Instagram down in the scrolly thing that's going across. You got my cell phone right there. Literally Google me, reach out, DM me, call me. I mean, I am available to anybody, period. Like I am, listen, I am a believer that I'm never too good for anybody. I'll hop on the phone with anybody at any time.
Oh man, you know what? There's two more things we have to do before we can finish our broadcast today.
Sure.
One is I have a question for you, and I ask this question at the end of every broadcast: is how can I, Dave Finale, help you grow your business?
Listen, man, having me on here and spreading the word of this positivity and energy is amazing. And anybody else I can hop on a podcast for and spread this energy. I just want to give back.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I just want to help you and your business. And last but not least, man, I know everybody comes on this broadcast for the same reason, not to talk about what we talked about for the last 53 minutes, but to get a hat. And here's the great thing: it matches your background.
That's right. That's right. I'm down for a hat, baby.
There you go, man. It's coming to you. It's coming to you. Listen, everybody, I want to thank you for coming on. Next week, we have the one and only Gilly Garrett. Gilly is a woman entrepreneur in Bergen County, New Jersey, who Gilly's Organics, and she helps a lot out with charities and stuff. So we're taking a little shift away from the real estate business to female entrepreneurs, and Gilly's going to come on. She's full of spark. She's a great person. Her and I met on Instagram, right? So her business and how she has her family and everything else. So we're going to have that next week. Henry, stay on for a few minutes with me, and just so we finish up. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Don't miss Gilly next week. And we are going to go out. Thanks so much, everybody.
Take care.